United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to do something different tonight. We're going to start with the Town of Deerfield public hearing. Being 5:30, the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing in accordance with RSA 231:133-A on Monday, November 26 at 5:30 p.m. This hearing shall be held for the purpose of readdressing a property on Meeting House Hill Road. The hearing shall be held in the downstairs conference room of the G.B. White Building, 8 Raymond Road, Deerfield, New Hampshire. I declare the public hearing open.
Dick, could you give that RSA again, please?
I can. 231:133-A. Would anybody like to speak? Rick, can you go to the...
Currently, Better get the back of your head on TV. Currently, I have a lot on Meeting House Hill Road that was recently sold. It was a lot formerly owned by the Cady family, and they built on the first lot, and then the subsequent lot is owned by the Dions, and then the third lot is currently vacant and is in the process of being built upon, and then there's a lot subsequent to that. The numbering currently goes 18, 20, and then the Dions lot is 28. The vacant lot has no number, and the subsequent lot is 30. So I need to renumber 28 in order to have numbers available to give the currently vacant lot. So the proposal would be to make 28 22, make the vacant lot 24, and retain the remaining two numbers, 26 and 28, for future up the road if it became necessary. The current owners are not amicable to the change, so therefore we're having this public meeting in order for the board to determine what to do. I also have a representative here from the state, Kenny Lynn Dempsey. She's my 911 coordinator at the Department of Safety.
So, Rick, tell me one more time. 28 is...
Currently, the Dions,
that does not have a house.
Yes.
they do have a home. The Dions currently live at 28 Meeting House Hill Road.
Okay.
There are residents at 20 Meeting House Hill Road.
Is that the one that...
No,
Katie's house that they originally
that was a house built by Aaron Katie a
Right.
couple of years
You know
ago.
right where it is, okay.
Okay, and then above 28 is another driveway that goes to about a 30-acre parcel, and that has currently been sold and in the process of being built upon. It needs an address.
Yeah,
And as you can see, the next lot is 30.
yes,
So there's nothing between 28 and 30.
okay.
So I have available numbers. I have 22, 24, and 26 currently unused. I would slide the numbers up to make the appropriate adjustment so I can have an address for that current vacant lot.
And that's going to be a single-family
Single-family
on 30
dwelling.
acres?
Yeah, single-family dwelling on, it's about 30 acres, 24, 30 acres.
What's that?
You good with it if I hand it down to them?
Oh, yeah, I'm all good. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Go ahead. Well, can you go over to the, so it's on, please?
I live at 28 Meeting House Hill Road. My name is Amanda Dion. I guess I'm kind of wondering how the lot was even split knowing that it would need an address, because originally it was supposed to be used as a road. So I'm kind of wondering how the house was even purchased having no address, and how it was split knowing this, and I was never notified of it being split. So I'm kind of wondering how that even happened. Why aren't they split? Why aren't they sharing the driveway? Why isn't it an A and B or a 1 and 2? Why this is even happening?
Can you, Fred, answer that?
Yeah, certainly you ended up receiving a notice of a subdivision taking place for those lots.
I didn't receive anything in with the mail in this town.
How long have you owned it?
Oh, I've lived there for 8 years.
Yeah, and that subdivision ended up taking place.
It's been going on for a while, but it was supposed to be a shared driveway is what I was understood when they couldn't do the subdivision to build the multiple houses back there.
Yeah, that wasn't the case.
Well, what do I do at this point? Because I don't want to change an address that my children have known for 8 years, and that I would have to change, so it would be so much cost, stress to change all of this stuff because somebody bought a lot that was supposed to be one lot at a point, or a street. It was supposed to be a street, or it was supposed to be one lot. And now my life is going to be changed around because somebody split a lot that I was unaware of.
In a minute, Mrs. Katie. We'll let her finish.
And we have a history, me and Mrs. Katie. She has given us grief since a month after we moved into that house about wanting to have access to our property, to maintain it so she could build the 5 houses lot back there. She's called the wetlands on us. Anything we've done on our property that she could call, has called on us. Which I'm not even really sure why she's here because she doesn't own the properties.
It's a public meeting.
Public hearing, so she can speak. Go ahead, Mrs. Katie.
I'm almost positive Mr. Dione was at the hearing when that was subdivided. There were 2 roads going into that lot, which was about 36 acres. One went to the house Aaron built. The other road was above the Diones. So that was the other access into the lot. There was 36 point something acres, and 7.4 or something like that went with the house that Aaron built.
My husband wasn't there. They've only been to 1 meeting, and that was when she wanted us to move.
Okay, let her finish, please.
If you look at the records of the minutes from the planning board hearing, you will find they were notified with a certified letter, and I'm almost positive Mr. Dione came and objected to the subdivision. It was granted. The further subdivision wasn't allowed, and I deeded all of the land to Aaron, and Aaron ended up selling the bigger piece to the people that Rick is now speaking of. The problems with the Diones are personal, private, only in that they had built a building on our land, and I asked that it be moved. I didn't even ask that it be moved the full zoning restrictions of 35 feet from the boundary, just that it be taken off our land. So I think, if you understand, there were 2 roads going into the lot. The second lot has the road that is above the Diones. The first road, number 20, sold with the house. So
Sorry about that.
it probably, if you don't want to put them in sequence, leave the Diones with 28 and make that second lot number 22 because 20 is abutting it.
Would you like to speak? Is your name Kenny? Kenny Lynn. Would you like to speak, please?
Hello. I'd like to speak in regards to the suggestion of possibly having one of them be 22 and not be in sequence. As far as the state 911, we would recommend against that. The reason why we prefer to have sequential numbering is for the fire and emergency to be able to find people during an emergency. And out-of-sequence addressing is highly discouraged because it just confuses the situation. In addition, there was a question about maybe using an A, a 28 and a 28A. That again is also discouraged because that's what's considered duplicate addressing. So what can happen when you have a house that's a 28 and one that's a 28A, if a 911 call is received and the person's not responsive, they're going to go to 28. There's the call, they can't verify the address if it's 28 or 28A because the person's not responsive on the other line. So they're going to show up with whatever address is on our database. And it's a very good possibility that the phone company might forget to put the A. So they're going to go to, get sent to 28, and then they're not going to know which building to go to. Did we go to the first building or did we go to the second building? So that's one of the reasons why we discourage against that. I believe the recommendation that Mr. Pelletier wanted to do with changing the address for 28 is the best recommendation, just to make sure that the numbers stay in sequential order.
Thank you. Any board discussion after seeing the plan?
What was your sequencing again?
Yeah, go ahead. She's 28, 18, 20.
I wasn't suggesting share my number. I thought originally the plan for that lot was to have two houses back there, so why wouldn't the house back there share that driveway, an A and B or whatever? And our road numbers already don't work because the person across the street from us is 25 and their mailbox is actually ahead of us, so it's already not correct. The person across from us, Nancy, her land lot is further over than ours, but her mailbox is after us, so it actually goes 28, 25. So it really wouldn't make a difference if there was a 22 there. But I also told Rick Pelletier that I would be willing to change my number if I got to choose the number, and I would be compensated for anything, and he never got back to me. He said he would be in touch. I said I wanted to be compensated for anything that I had to change, checks, driving license, anything like that, and if I could pick the number. And he said he would get back to me and never did. But I would prefer to keep my number that my children are learning at school because they are young. We have 5 children, and that's the address they've known for 8 years. I mean, 2 of my kids, we lived there before they were even born. That's what they know. And we plan on living there forever. We don't plan on ever moving. That's the house that our kids were raised in. That's the house that we're going to be there. And it's so saddened that after 8 years that we're having our address taken from us.
What would be your number of choice?
28, but I'll take 24.
Does 24, Rick, work, and then the other one 26?
Yeah, it just leaves 22 in limbo.
Right, but 26 is in limbo right now if you do 22, 24.
20, 24, 26.
We can't do 20 because that's Ron Cohn's.
Correct, 20 exists. Basically, we have 3 unused numbers, 22, 24, 26. We go from 20 to 28.
Right. Sure.
Thank you for calling me a witch. The only other thing I would ask for is if it was possible, I know that there's a lot of land at the top of the hill that I don't know her name, the O'Neills own.
Yes.
But we have such a mail issue in this town that if they could not use 28, that way I already get other people's mail. I get people from Raymond's mail if that was a possibility, so I don't have any more mail issues.
I think we can pretty well assure you they won't get 28 because 30's already on here.
Right. That way I just don't have any mailing problems and obviously the only other thing I would ask if this didn't happen until a couple months after Christmas, because I have a lot of packages between family sending and us receiving for Christmas. This is a kind of a crappy time to have a new address.
What do you think, Fred, 24 and 26 instead
Yeah, I
of
think
20?
24 would appear to work okay, and I think it appears to be okay with Rick.
Is that all right? Is that all right with
And
you,
compensation,
Kenny?
24 would work for the state.
I don't know what anything would cost, or, I mean, obviously checks would be one thing, but I have no idea what something like that, how do you even change the deed to your house?
Okay, can I?
Of
My-
course.
My deed, my numbering was changed from 23 to 21, and I didn't have to change my deed, so.
Oh, no. Well, just everything, it just sounds like a lot to do.
I mean, we're trying to work with you
And
if
I
24 helps, but I don't think there's anything in the budget for compensation.
We've certainly never done it before, but
Yeah.
I mean, we'll work with
I
you on a
didn't get
number.
compensated, so.
I mean, if nothing comes up, nothing comes up, but if there was something.
Go ahead, Kenny, Lynn.
Hi, as far as the question regarding the deed, you wouldn't have to change anything unless you refinance the property or your building was, your house was sold.
And how would I refinance, because we do plan on adding an addition at some point,
Or if you refinance at that point in time, that's when you'll change the address on the deed.
and does that cost?
I don't believe so. You may have a question with your homeowner's insurance, but all you have to do is provide them a copy of the letter that the town sends stating that your address has been changed, and that's all they need.
It just
Um,
sounds like
And as far as the DMV, they have those little stickers
a lot. Right.
that they just put on the back, and then when you go to get your new license, that's when you would change it there.
I tried to write down as much as I could.
Right.
There's a lot. You think about it.
yeah,
Even
once
like
you
if
close
you're
the
on your
hearing,
phone
we
and
can
you're
make a
like,
motion or
I've
we
been doing a lot of
can
Christmas shopping.
consider it at a later time.
Remember,
We-
everything pops up, and that would be all different.
Take it under
Yeah.
advisement.
And as far as the compensation, we understand, and the state understands that people do not like to change their address, and it's not always an easy thing. So we don't recommend it lightly. Generally, we only do it when there's really a big concern for response or there's an issue. And so as far as your request for doing it after the holidays, I think that's a very valid request. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was, well, that's a valid request, and I can't think of what the other thing was that I was about to mention,
When it
so.
comes to compensation.
Oh,
I'm
that
not-
was the other
I'm
thing.
not asking for anything up front, but if something comes along and it's, I mean, we're not a very healthy family, if something came up and we
Yeah.
had to do something, I would hope that somebody would help us out, that's all.
It is, in
Yeah,
my,
we need
over
the
my,
conversation to sort of run through the
I'm sorry.
chairman here, not back and forth.
I'm
with
sorry.
folks.
in over 12 years that I've been doing this, I've never had a community compensate,
No.
because that would just be
I wasn't
setting a
trying to-
bad
I was
precedence.
trying to make things easy when Rick came, and I said I would go easy if we could, if anything came up for compensation, and if I could pick my number, and then he just never got back to me. Now we're here.
Thank you, Kenny Lynn.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to close the public hearing at this time. Does the board want to take this under advisement or vote tonight? Go ahead, Andy.
I think that one of the things we could do to incorporate the time frame is generally acknowledge that we're going to use 24 as the number to replace 28, but not to move on it this evening and wait till after the first of the year, just to ensure that there's no confusion about the mailing address.
Oh, could we vote on it tonight with making it effective January 1st?
Yes.
Can we make it a little further than January 1st? We have family like in Florida and stuff, I just don't want any issues with packaging.
15th.
January
10th?
15th?
Sure. I mean, make the motion.
Well,
We would ask that when the date is selected, that it's not a weekend or a holiday, because the state 911 will need to update all their systems to show the new address. We notify the phone service
Got a
providers.
calendar, Jeff?
So we do ask that the date selected is generally a midweek date, a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
January 16th.
February, is that possible? And it be a weekday, I'm just concerned about Christmas gifts.
What's February 1st?
Friday. January 30th is a Wednesday.
Okay, how about January 30th then?
It's a
That would be a
Wednesday.
Wednesday and it'd be
Yeah.
the end of the
Put
month.
that in the motion.
I'll make a motion to renumber to 24 Meeting House Hill Road, the effective date of January 30th of 2019.
Second.
Second by Jeff. Any other discussion, Cindy, Andy?
Is this new house, is this already built?
No.
No, okay. I just was asking for the fire
No,
department.
you need to know.
If there's a house out there right now.
All in favor of changing 28 to 24 effective January 30th, say aye.
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 Oppose? Unanimous? Thank you. That concludes that. Call the regular meeting to order. Jerry Sayers, would you like to start before we? You asked to come back tonight from last Monday.
Yes, I was just looking for an extension. I'm trying to finalize the deed on my property. I'm doing everything by email. He's out of the country. If I say something that upsets him, he stops talking to me. So it's like I have no control over. I mean, it took me, when I first came to John was right after the first of the year, when I had come to an agreement with George regarding buying the property. And it took me till September to get the paperwork in because he would stop talking to me and stuff like that. And I just need a little more time for the lawyer to get the paperwork corrected. In the meantime, I've even offered to pay towards the taxes. But as soon as the deed is recorded, I plan on refinancing the house so that I can get the work done to the house. I have no reason not to record the deed as soon as I get it. I'd love to get the work done.
What are you talking about, something towards the taxes?
Well, when I had talked to Kelly Roberts, I had told her I could pay $500 a month towards the taxes. And then John sent me my check back and saying that I have no interest in the property and that they cannot accept a check towards the taxes.
I don't know that that's enough, Jerry, we've gone this far with the process. We need a little bit more than $500 a month to even consider.
Well, I mean, that was what I had offered back in August, September, when I talked to Kelly. That was,
But we've already forgiven the interest in that, thinking that it would have been wrapped up by now.
I was hoping it would have been wrapped up back in May and June when I came to agreement with George and came to the town to let him know. But
Can you give us a time that you could definitely close by and a dollar amount?
I can't. Like I said, when I talked to my lawyer last Monday, he had one paper that he was waiting on, and he should have received it sometime this week, which means then I can, as soon as he receives the corrected paperwork, then the deed can be filed. And then it's just wrapping up the refinance that I had started, which is probably gonna take a month or so.
Go ahead, Andy.
I was just breathing. I guess I'm not particularly interested in carrying this on a lot further. Given where we're at, in my mind, I would consider possibly till the end of the year. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but it's going to have been a year, and we haven't had a tremendous amount of communication from you with regard to this over this time until we sent the letter saying that the December 5th was the date.
I've let John know when I heard.
I've seen all the correspondence
Yeah,
between
I've
you,
let him
John,
know.
George, anybody.
I talked to Kelly and stuff like that, when there's a change or when there's something new, then, I've let him know.
Problem is, if we bend on this or try to work with you and it doesn't come together. Kelly's gotta start all over again. Am I
Yep.
right?
Yeah, and it costs us legal fees and processing fees and various other things all over again. We're about $52,000 in the hole at full face value on this property.
What do you think, Jeff?
I'm thinking we try to get it to the end of the year and
Drop, definite,
Drop
not,
dead.
not a day beyond. I mean, that gives them another 5 weeks.
well,
This
Is that
will-
to get the deed recorded and stuff?
I would guess so, yeah.
I will talk to my lawyer again tomorrow to make, see if he's got the paperwork in yet, the corrected paperwork. And like I said, as soon as he has it, he knows it's gotta be filed or recorded.
It was supposed to be recorded by the 5th of December, is that what?
Our letter to him said that the drop dead date on this was 12/5.
So if we say end of December, that would be the back taxes and recording the deed?
It's probably gonna take longer than a month to go ahead and do the refinance of it, but I'll try to get the deed recorded by the end of the year. And then, I don't know how long the bank will take to do a refinance, maybe a month. It's already been started, so it's, but they can't do it, they can't go any further until the deed's in my name. I mean, I've worked on this for 5 years. It's, it's taken me 5 years to get this far.
Yeah, I think the refinancing will definitely take longer than the end of the year.
Right, but if the deed's in his name, it's off the town,
Right.
and he's still gonna owe it to us, tax-wise.
Yeah, I guess I'm comfortable extending the deadline to 12/31 to get the deed placed. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
agree with that.
Yes.
Once the deed is in my name, will you accept a check from me to pay it until I can get the refinance done?
Absolutely, if the deed is in your name, you have a clear interest in the property, and,
Right.
and the town clerk would be obligated to, to accept any payments you made.
Okay.
Everybody else on that?
Do you want me to make a motion?
They do.
Yeah,
We're
I
done
would make a
discussing it.
motion, and can I have his full name? Is it Jerry or Gerald?
I go by Jerry.
Okay, whichever you'd prefer. Yeah, I would make a motion that we extend the deadline that we previously set at December 5th, 2018 to December 31st, 2018 for Mr. Jerry Sayers with regard to recording the deed at the property located at the corner of Birch Road and South Road. The specific street address being
141 South.
141 South Road. Yep, yes, thank you.
And second.
Second by Jeff. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You know what you gotta do, Jerry.
Thank you very much.
Review of outstanding minutes for November 19th, 2018.
I would move the minutes as written.
Second?
Second by Fred. Everybody all good with them? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have a single payroll manifest of $1,095 with a net payroll of $904.23.
I would move the payroll manifest as presented.
Second?
Second by Fred, all in favor?
Aye.
Is that one? For the minutes to show on the accounts payable manifest for November 12, 2018, 3 selectmen signed on the 9th, and the 13th for $11,955.96. This week's accounts payable for November 26 is $46,329.48.
I would move the accounts payable as read.
Second.
Second by Jeff, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. For the record, we have an intent to cut map 407, lots 11, 23, and 24 on Woodman Road. Total of 111 acres. Acreage to cut is 75.
I have no items to report this evening.
Okay. Is there any unfinished, new, or other business?
I don't have any.
Andy?
The only thing I would mention, we didn't approve or disapprove of the proposed surplus property procedure and policy at the last meeting. I don't know if people want to do that tonight, or if people want to take another meeting to review the
I
procedure.
was reviewing it with the town administrator before we got here, made a few changes, so he was gonna type them up and then get it back out. He's hoping to
Okay.
take out a little bit of the gray area of who decides the values of what. More of a procedure for
Okay, makes sense.
surplusing it. Thank you for bringing it up. Fred, you have something?
Nope.
Jeff?
Good.
Cindy?
Yeah, I get a couple things after listening to Miss Dion over there about the mail. There's a lot of complaints about our mail system, is there?
I don't know who we talked to.
I don't know, so I'm asking.
Go ahead, Andy.
One of the things that I found out that I didn't realize, I had complained about one of the things that she commented, getting mail from other towns, and I didn't understand how that was happening. I didn't realize that a lot of the mail is pre-sorted, apparently at I believe it's the Manchester Central Facility before it ever gets to Deerfield. So the stuff that goes in P.O. boxes, apparently the folks in the post office handle. But some of the rural route, or whatever they're calling that now, delivery comes pre-sorted and pre-packaged, so to speak, for the carriers. And that's apparently where the problem is, because our local folks certainly know that Raymond's, Nottingham, and Northwood Mail shouldn't be on their truck for the route, but they apparently get flats and the mail sorted and bundled. So I think we probably need to look maybe a step beyond our local post office. I'm not sure at all how we go about taking that step.
I don't know if it ended up being to the regional head of the post office?
We can certainly look into it, I guess.
Yeah.
See who we
Is that somebody you can ask John to attack that? Anything else, Cindy?
Yeah, the cascade system, I talked to the guy that worked on it. It is, he says it does have a value. He's not sure, without pulling the paperwork, I just had him on the phone. But then I was also talking to somebody that said there was a state's fire surplus at the state, that we could list that and maybe another fire department could purchase it for their fire department. So I
Sounds
didn't know if
good.
that was something we wanted to look into.
Yes,
Yeah, I think we should definitely look
Definitely.
into that if that's an option.
that's our job.
And the fire truck at D-Town.
Forestry unit.
That's a forestry truck. We basically don't own it. The state does. It's sitting out there. I don't know if it's waiting for parts or, should we just bring that back or we gotta get it undercover, I
Glad you
think.
brought it up. I did a little homework. It's been sitting there since September 22nd. It's been through 3 storms and the cold weather. And the report I got is it's definitely owned by the state, and they could take it from us if they saw the neglect of how we're not taking care of it. Thing was and is in excellent shape for its age. But worse than that is, the word on the street was it needs potential brakes. Last October, it went through a year ago. O'Neill Auto, who took the time to take the tires off and check the brakes, everything was fine, and it hasn't been 100 miles since that was done. So there's 2 stories floating around, but we need to get it undercover. We have a bay at South Station that if, supposedly it's a 2-day turnaround for parts for that truck if you needed them. It's been sitting there for 2 months.
Even if we just get it back undercover until the parts come in, if that's the problem.
Correct.
I did talk to the chief, and he said all the tanks and pumps were empty, but
We don't need it sitting out. It doesn't look good sitting there anyway. Fred?
Is there a bay available in the station that's on the fairgrounds?
Well, there's a heated bay on South Station where it could go.
Yeah, okay, there's one available there?
Then you wouldn't have to worry
Yeah.
about it being drained and everything.
Well, let's send a message to the fire chief that the board would like to see that truck undercover and preferably at South Bay in a heated.
As soon as
Rush.
possible.
I'll find out too what's wrong with it, for sure, if there is brakes or what it is.
I think we need to find out from O'Neill Auto's opinion from where he had done it. All the others supposedly went to Liberty, and they didn't want to touch that one, so it ended up down there. Any other new or other business? Citizens' comments. Mrs. Katie. You'll get a hold of Matt.
I was reminded when Mr. Sayers was talking that we did have state law that said people could pay the taxes on somebody else's property, and when the town was going to foreclose, they could come forth and pay the bills. That was years ago. But I do know there's a process in tax law for people to pay. So I think it was RSA 76, it was under that area. I'd like to correct Mrs. Dione, since it was a public meeting and there will be minutes. They had a building on my property, and I asked that it be moved. They went to the Board of Adjustment, which decided no, they couldn't keep a building on my property. And I said, I'm not asking they move it the 37.5 feet, I'm just simply asking it be moved off my property. The second complaint was because they decided to divert the water from their property onto my property. And conservation law requires when you're going to dredge and fill, that you get a dredge and fill permit, which they didn't have. So I don't think things should be in minutes that are wrong. And if you check the record, you will see they went to the ZBA and there was a proper hearing, and they were told you can't have a variance for a building on somebody else's property. There's just something, you know, when Rick started renumbering roads, Old Center got a whole bunch of new numbers.
Right.
And I get a delivery at least once a week for Aaron, because he was 32. He's now 28. But either he's lazy and doesn't tell the companies that he has got a new address. And it's pretty simple. All I do is say to UPS and FedEx, next door. And they get so they smile and just go next door. I missed a court hearing because the post office delivered my notice of oral arguments to change of address, which takes 2 weeks to come back. So I think if anybody has a complaint about mail, when I had a complaint before, many years ago, I called Stu Brown at the Goffs Falls Post Office. He is head of the postal division here in New Hampshire. And it got corrected. So there must be somebody now, Stu's retired, that also takes the complaints for this region. And I think if you called the Goffs Falls administration, you would get that. But it is a pain when your address is changed, and I know that as well as anybody.
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Second?
Aye.
6:12 PM. Thank you, everybody.